And I would just ask everybody.
How many people are we have on right now?
13 people.
13? Hey, everybody at home, we're waiting for a few more people to get on board. If you can hear everything fine. Sorry, we got Mario from Garage in the background. If you can hear everything fine, if it sounds good, go ahead and comment below and just let us know. If there's an issue, keep it yourself. Just kidding. Please share, because we want to know. We're just going to wait a few more minutes. So go ahead, fill wine glasses, water glasses, shot glasses, whatever it is, you need to make it through this the next 45 minutes to an hour with me. So Mario's escaping. He'll be back in just a minute to talk about the wine. Here's some of this.
I felt like this behind it makes it even more emotional.
How many people we have on?
I don't know how to tell how many people are on. That's my only thing. 11.
Cool. All right. All right, everybody. About 30 seconds. We're going to start going through the kits to get everything laid out. I wrote in the notes for you guys to go ahead and pull out the cheese in your ham a little earlier. We blocked the sun. We're having a difficulty with Mother Nature and coming in through a window. We might be okay in just a few minutes. My wife's informed me that once the sun goes down, there shouldn't be a problem with light. I agree. I think it's a pretty fair statement. We're working on a few things to make it more pleasurable for your experience. How's that? Is that a little better for everybody? We've moved the camera, adjusted accordingly. If you can at home, give a thumbs up. We're not going to see that, but I like it. I'm all about high fives, thumbs up. We're talking no contact. Yeah. Apparently, if you live downtown too, you may want to get on your hotspot because downtown is having trouble with internet service. Oh, everybody says it's way better. I apologize. It's bright out. I am extremely white on the ratio of tan to not tan. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Mario. Right now, I am actually from Garage's Wine Room and Merchant downtown in the Arts District. I really love these guys. I think they do an amazing job of bringing an eclectic wine list, super affordable prices. It's how we were able to stay drinking throughout the shutdown and continue right now. But I love them. I've done a few things through the wine shop here. So we have a really good time, and I think they pair up everything very nicely. So I gave them this dish, asked them to put something with it, and Mario's going to come over here and chat about it. Mario, if you would come hither. We're going to have to use this pod. Sorry.
Maybe I could
just speak into it
really close.
Here.
Okay. This is Kermit the Frog here, coming from Garage. Just kidding. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for getting the package again. This is we were at Garage Wine Room and Merchant, corner of California and Casino Center in the Arts District. If you haven't come down and enjoyed some wine with us, please do. We're still open Wednesday through Sunday from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we have both interior and exterior seating available. So the wine today that everybody got in your package, we've gone ahead and paired a pretty classic and traditional French white wine from the Languedoc or in France, made by Massac, which is a property that's owned by the larger Massedo Mascassac, which is one of the major producers of the Languedoc, both red and white wines. This wine comes from an appellation called Picpoul de Pinet, which is in the Languedoc, and it is 100% Picpoul. Okay, sorry. I don't really know where it is. So 100% Picpoul. So Picpoul is the grape in this. And Picpoul, as a grape, as a wine from this region, has to be made from 100% Picpoul, and it has a maximum residual of 3 grams per liter. So talk about dry white wine. This is definitely it. It'll have a little bit bigger of a body, some weightiness to it, a little bit of a lemony character to it, and possibly a little salinity being so close to the coast as well. So with a lot of trees, some pork dishes, as well as seafood, this wine is fantastic with it. If you like Chablis, that has a super low oak, or any light white wine, 0 oak, this will be very good for you. We also paired this with an add-on from a domestic producer called Las Jarras. So if you happen to pick up a bottle of the Las Jarras, this is called sweet berry wine, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it is not sweet at all. This wine is actually drier than the white wine. This has less than 1 gram per liter of residual sugar left in the wine, and it's a blend. And I'll tell you why it's called sweet berry wine. So Las Jarras is a winery in Sonoma, or a wine operation in Sonoma, owned by a couple of gentlemen, one of whom is a comedian. His name is Eric Wareheim. If you've ever seen the Tim and Eric Awesome Show Great Job skits, Eric Wareheim is the comedian in that. So they make this wine with all kinds of crazy little labels, but this one was the subject of one where the fake doctor, Dr. Brule, reviewed wine, and that's why he's the wine dripping from the bottom of his face. He was just chugging it, and he was kind of a little bit drunk, and he was just saying that it tasted like sweet berry wine, and it was really funny. So that they decided to make the label, but it is not sweet. It is a berry wine made from grapes. It's got some bright berry characteristics to it for sure, but a very dry wine. It's a blend of a bunch of different grapes: Carignan, Zinfandel, Charbonneau, Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's really good. And especially with some lighter fare like a poultry or a ham dish, this is a good pairing too. So cool wines. I think that's it.
Thank you, Mario. All right, I am back on board with you guys. So you pulled out your wine from the kit. So we're going to go through real quickly some of the other stuff that we have on in there for you. We have a deli full of herbs. We have tarragon, chives, and parsley. A nice combo. We're using that inside making the sauce as top. So when we chop it up here in a little bit, make sure you guys chop it up, put it back inside, and only use it sparingly. You should have a couple containers of onions. That's going to be all for the dandelion green dish. There's going to be some a container of blended oil. You're going to use that between 2 things, making the sauce as well as dandelion greens. There's going to be some heavy cream, and then you're going to see chicken broth. Now, one says for greens, that's obviously for the dandelion greens, and the other one being for the broth dish. Garlic, again, we're using half of this in the sauce and half of it making the greens because I love a lot of garlic. I think it's potent, delicious, it's spicy, it belongs in everything. Especially on your pillow when you wake up in the morning because you've eaten so much. So we got a little bit of butter. We've got some really nice cognac, thanks to our friends at Remy Martin. this is going to add some really nice caramel notes to our dish, something I think goes great with the ham. When you think about a lot of hams having sugars on them, the smoke, everything that you kind of get from a really nice cognac. Traditionally, this dish, as I talk about it, is made with Chablis, so a white wine. But in this instance, I like to trade it out every once in a while just to do something a little different. And then you're going to have a container of shallots. You're going to have a little container of red pepper flake for your greens. You can choose to add this in or not, all of it, some of it. If you're friends with me, you're probably throwing it all in. If you're not friends with me, it's probably going to stay that way. I like spice. It's delicious. It goes well with the peppery green. And then you're going to have a container of tomatoes. And then lastly, you're going to have the ham. Now, I mentioned in there American ham, heritage ham. When we talk about heritage, and that comes up a lot in our cooking, especially with Main Street Provisions, that we like to use heritage breed animals whenever possible, meaning that these are breeds of pigs and everything that were pre-industrial revolution. All right, so as we start to crossbreed and develop a bird that's bigger, more meat and everything, or less fat in a pig, we lost a lot of great flavor that was there pre that time. So we like to use those meats. We like to start with flavor being at the ingredient. And also this is a clean animal, a historic animal. And then we trust in how it's being raised. So we like to use from Heritage Food Farms. This is a collective group working to bring you small farms that traditionally can't get their product to you because of the cost of shipping, because of the cost of marketing. So they work together to bring you these great farmers that are trying to do the right thing with their chickens or everything. So this is something you can pick up at Cureton Way. They're a local cheese meat shop. They do also sandwiches and things like that. Really great people over there. So make sure you look them up. Next, we also have walnut smoked beef cheese. This is a Utah cheese. So whenever possible, I like to trade out American ingredients, trade out foreign ingredients for American ingredients. Foreign ingredients are amazing. I just think there's some people like Beehive that there's times we could use them to really kind of celebrate the cool things that we're doing here in the U.S. as we work towards more artisan cheeses, beers, wines, meats, anything like that. So this is the one I chose for tonight. So real quick, also you have the dandelion greens. You have a mix of red and green dandelion greens that I gave you guys. It said to go ahead and soak those in water with a little bit of salt. I've already done that, cleared out the water, but you can go ahead and chop them down as I did, which was just a few clean cuts right along the stalks to give you about a 2 to 3 inch long piece, keeping most of the greens kind of well put together. I'm going to come in closer for you so you guys can see what I'm talking about. We want to give them a rinse to get the grit and sand and dirt off of them. I really like dandelion greens for a couple. I grew up in California, and you think about back home. I didn't necessarily do things like collard greens, but I think that after my time in the South, the dishes that I love, the braised collard greens with pork or onions and pepper and flakes like that, I like to replace it because there's a lot of spice in dandelion greens. They hold up really well to braising, raw, cooked, and nutritionally, they're great for you. You've got vitamin A, C, K. It's great for your liver. It's great for inflammation. And again, I said you could eat them cooked or raw, salads, braised, sauteed. So a lot of things you can do to them. You know, you usually go in the store. I've heard people say, you know, I go into Whole Foods and pick them up all the time. And I can hear the cashiers, you know, they're always surprised. They're like, I just don't know what to do with them. Treat them like a collard green, treat them like a chicory, a spice green. So there's a lot of things you can do, and they're a very healthy green for you to put into your diet. So we're going to keep that available to the side. First couple things because I want to get that set and over to the side before we start our sauce and our grain to make this easy for you. So we're going to have tonight on camera is actually my gorgeous wife, Amanda Hall. So if there's an issue with camera work, it's her. But I'm super happy she's here to help me out. So we're going to go ahead. But I'm super happy she's here to help me out. So we're going to go ahead and lay this out for you. Now, I realize some of you have some pieces that may have split. That's just unfortunate because mussels, you know, have sections to them, so they don't always kind of work out the way you want. Now, I also said on there, talking about things like city ham, or I've talked about in our menus in the past. When you talk about city ham, the reason you talk about this is that you're talking the difference between country hams, American country hams, and prosciutto and things like that. So prosciutto, American country hams, they've been cured. So they've had a salt mixture on the outside for a certain amount of time and then hung to dry. So that's what you see, like the prosciuttos, the Serrano hams, the American hams, like and Edwards. Those are used for some great dishes. The city hams are closer to what you think of when you're thinking Thanksgiving with the baked honey hams and everything. These are sat in a brine. They've been rinsed, flavored on the outside, and then baked a lot of different things. Reason I love this dish is because I think ham doesn't get enough appreciation for the fact that it's delicious, other than, you know, not just being just a breakfast food. So what we're going to want to do is lay this cheese out kind of evenly. I've got a couple more pieces here, divide it up among the ham that I gave you, and we can go ahead and it's going to break apart. It's going to break apart. That's fine. You just want to keep it spread through the ham. Here you see. So yeah, it's, so many people think of it as just like breakfast time, and on a sandwich, things like that. I think it's a great center of the plate dinner item. It's salty, sweet, fat content, everything you kind of want. You just kind of have to put it for the right things also, and not be afraid that it's too country or trashy to sear a ham steak and a plate for everyone. So as you can see, a good instructions. You want a dish that's going to be small enough to kind of keep the ham tucked together, all right? But enough that we can pour sauce on it later, enough to really soak in underneath the sides and on top of the ham. Right? So I'm going to roll a few more here. And then we're going to get ourselves wiped down while you guys at home kind of get yourself in a little better situation and ready to do the next part. And go ahead and do this piece right here. And I'm going to go ahead and save this ham and cheese for later. And do one more roll up, kind of tuck everything in there. There we go. And tuck that right inside. So you should see we got room edge, protecting. It pops up. All right, nothing's perfect, neither should it be, especially in kind of good supper country cooking. It doesn't need to look pretty, it just needs to make your stomach happy. So we're gonna set that one to the side there. The next thing I want you guys to get ready with is your herbs. So go ahead, get your work surface kind of cleared off. Again, if you guys have any questions along the way, concerns, go ahead and type them below. My wife's going to tell me. I'm going to try my best to listen to her, which isn't always possible in what I do, but I try my best. So again, I gave you a whole stack of things now. When you guys get parsley and tarragon at home, don't need to clip all the leaves, get rid of the stems. Stems have flavor, texture. You paid for them, and unless you're Guy Savoy or a high-end restaurant, especially at home, you need to be saving these. You can put them in stock, but in this case, since we're mincing them up so small, it's going to work into what we're doing. So don't be afraid to leave them on. Now with the tarragon, you have the very woody stems. All right. Now that part you guys can go through and pick out. You want to work with something a little bit more chewable and soft on the teeth. I realize none of you are probably that old that that's a concern, but still nobody wants to floss with a thick piece of tarragon stem in there. So go ahead, we're going to clear those leaves off. All right. Tarragon has this beautiful kind of licoricey flavor to it that really cuts through the tomatoes, acts well with the ham, along with the cognac that we're going to add in. Parsley is just herbaceous, earthy, great, and chive is kind of a nice, mild, delicate, oniony flavor to it. So go ahead, get a nice bunch together, and then we're just going to work to break this down. Kind of switch your directions so you can break it down pretty evenly, all right? Until we can get this into a working, manageable pile that we can go ahead and start cutting a little smaller. Now, we want to go for a very fine chop, not a mince. Mince, you're really breaking it down into very small, kind of like coarse salt texture. I want something a little bit more so when I bite into a piece of herb, I really know what I'm getting. Change that direction again. Remember, you want to make sure that your knives are sharp when you do this, because if you don't use a sharp knife, you're going to see a lot of browning of your herbs. That's because you're smashing the cell walls instead of actually cutting them, which is destroying it, all right? So you're going to cause more oxidation. Herbs are going to be less beautiful, less delicious, and that's not what we want. Now, I have a good friend out there tonight that sent me a text message who is very excited to do the dinner with us tonight. I'm always thankful because she constantly supports all that we do. And someone with such a loving heart, you always want life to be, amazing for them. You can see it can really start to break it down. So that's about as far as we want to take it, all right? Just kind of check, make sure your pile isn't uneven. Get your blade away. So yeah, she always supports, she's always out there. And today she picked up her box from us to cook tonight with her husband, and then very unfortunately found out that her friend passed away. So we're going to give a toast out to her friend and out to her. Jim and I, to your friend, Mr. To you tonight, and wishing you all the best. And I've got a crowd of people in the background here with their glasses raised. All right. We love you and we appreciate everybody that's struggling in these times. And that's why we're doing dinner, so we can connect, we can be with one another, find some points of joy, and usually cooking and having dinner together is exactly that. So cheers. All right. So we got our herbs. We're going to go ahead. We're going to put them back into our container so they're out of the way, and we can get working on our sauce. All right. All right, buddy. So you need your blended oil. You need your garlic. Remember, half of this garlic is going for your greens later, so don't get greedy. But you're going to use all your shallots. So go ahead, pull your shallots out. Now, you want to make sure to start getting your pan hot so that as you cut through your shallots, you cut through your garlic, you can them pretty quick. See, I've got my pot here, medium, smaller pot, great for making sauces. You don't want something like a saute pan a lot of times with something like this because you're going to have too much evaporation. It's going to get all the moisture out really quick before you really kind of develop those flavors and let it slowly cook down. So a medium heat going on. We're going to go ahead, let that warm up. So we got our blended oil ready. Now for our shallots, go ahead and just clean off those dirty ends. All right. If you have any shallots with any really thick skin, like when you're looking at an onion and you peel back that first layer and it still looks like the skin of somebody that's been hanging out in the Florida sun for the past 40 years, go ahead and get rid of that. It's going to be as unenjoyable as that person. So I can say that because I lived in Tampa for 5.5 years, and my God, going to the beaches were pretty disturbing at times. So we can go ahead, kind of break down our shallots to something a little bit more workable because we're going to mince these. So go ahead, it could be a uniform right now. We just want a small size, which doesn't happen to make this easy to work with. It's really funny, you guys at home, I have an ear, and an AirPod so I can speak directly to you, so you don't get a lot of the noise going on here. But we have this crowd of Main Street Provisions people, my brother, and Secret Burger people that are as rowdy as any kind of baseball game pre-2020. So it's enjoyable. So as I'm talking to you guys, I can hear them out there having a great time watching, well, more so watching their wine glasses empty than anything. So we've broken it down a little smaller size, again, so we can work in a smaller pile. Make sure you clear off your knife blade so you don't have any kind of large pieces hanging around that suddenly jump back into the pile. All right, so shallots are nicely chopped up. Look good. We're gonna clean off our blade one more time. Make sure we've got everything close by. All right, now our pan's been getting hot. So we're gonna go ahead and add half. Sorry guys, we had a little shutdown with our flame. We're gonna go with secondary. So we got a fun going. We're gonna get that oil in there and let it go. Yep. 1 second, folks. Yep. Hold on. We have a technical error. Now, see, the nice thing is when I do these videos for you guys, I'm doing them with propane burners. So imagine the crappiest apartment you've ever lived in, trying to cater and cook for people. There we go. And you know, that being the experience, which, no lie, when I was young, I used to live in this really crappy small apartment. Washer and dryer were my prep station. I used to cater out of it, and my stove was pretty much just like these propane burners. Did absolutely nothing to make my life easier. So we used about half the oil in there. So it's pretty kind of measured out. It'll be plenty for you guys, but go ahead and use half that oil to kind of really coat the bottom of your pan. You got a lot of shallots and garlic going in here that need to cook down. They're going to soak up a lot of that oil. So go ahead, put the rest of your oil back, so dip into it later. While we're waiting for my makeshift station to get hot again, don't worry. We're going to pull out some of our garlic. We're going to use about half. Put the rest of it back. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of a workstation here. All right. I'm going to come in closely. When you get your garlic, if you look at some of them, you might see large brown. That's the germ. Go ahead, garlic, because you do not want those hard lumps in there. That's going to be the base of the garlic. Where the roots, go ahead, clear it off. If you see any big pieces, there we go. Right. Now, to make your life easier, what we're going to do is we're going to crush the garlic, right, using the side of our blade. This is just going to make it a little easier to mince, to cut down. It's also, with garlic, it's going to allow a lot of those oils to start spreading out and working to really get as much potent flavor as we can out of it. First restaurant I ever worked in, we had garlic. That I swear to God, it was like 5 pounds of garlic to maybe 32 ounces of chicken stock and a little more of cream. That you ate that soup regularly, and we served it at weddings, and I can't imagine why I chose this. I loved it because it was so garlicky, but yeah, you had like an entire bowl, and the next morning you woke up, you smelt it on your pillowcase, it was on your breath. My wife is confirming this because she's had it before, and it's pretty intense. All right. Okay, so we can take a look at our oil. It's getting nice and hot. All right, so see a little bit of smoke. We can pull it off the heat for a second. Go ahead and add in our shallots first to kind of cool down the oil. We want to get them stirring because we're looking for more of the shallots and garlic to sweat, meaning that you're going to move them frequently. You want them to be a little transparent, not as much color as when you like saute. You're really going for very little color because you're looking to bring out more of the subtle flavors. Now we're going to add garlic. All right. We're going to turn our heat down kind of like a medium low. And you're going to make sure to move that often. Right? You really just want to start getting like a heavy kind of tone of the fragrancy of garlic, the shallot. Just start to break them down. Now we're going to bring in our next bit. You should see the chicken broth for the sauce, our cream, and our tomatoes, right? As well as those herbs that we cut up just a little bit ago, right? What? So far, there has been a lot of questions. Hopefully, that's because I'm giving you guys a lot of information and not that you just don't want to talk to me. If you do want to talk to me, go ahead, come down to Gary G's Wine Bar. We can have a drink together later. If you're coming down to fight me, my brother Mike is here. He's taking all requests. Also, grab your cognac. There's going to be a little bit of apple cider vinegar in here. That little bit of vinegar to kind of break it in all with the cognac. We're going to kind of prepare that. If you have an open flame, you know, a gas burner at home, don't be afraid that if you're going to add in a bunch of cognac or alcohol to a dish, to back that pan off the flame. I say this because after years of being a culinary school instructor, I've seen a lot of people, not just like pretty closely, but actually take eyebrows off and eyelashes. They somehow just Cy Young'd this cognac or alcohol straight into the pan from like 4 feet away. Go ahead, deglaze the pan with your cognac, all right? If you need to tilt it a little bit, all right, see if that alcohol catches, just so you don't surprise yourself, right? Don't be afraid of the flame, but at the same time, don't be stupid and get your face in really close that you need to see this interaction happen, right? So, yeah, if you're just trying to keep up, go ahead and let me know. Say we're going too fast, we'll slow down. Now, we're kind of at a slow down point. We just added the cognac and the vinegar into the glazed the shallot. All right. So we're going to let that cook down just a little bit. We want to let that reduce about halfway. This way it burns off some of the alcohol. Concentrates some of the flavors of the cognac. You know, and kind of breaks down the liquid so we don't have as much in the pan later on. All right. All right, so you guys kind of see what we're working with here.
I'm gonna take one picture.
Reduce that just a little bit more, right? While we're waiting, go ahead, make sure you have yourself a nice medium-sized saute pan. This is going to be for our green. We can go ahead and start getting this kind of laid out. Put that on a very low flame. Get it nice and warmed up. We'll shut it off here in a minute because we don't want to get the pan too hot. Add our oil to it in a little bit, and then have that oil flare up and explode on it. When you're nice and warm, it's ready to work quickly for us. You guys have any questions? Go ahead, throw them out there. Even if you need me to slow down, go right ahead. I've made this dish a lot of times, so it's kind of hard to kind of rein it back. You know, I spent a few years in the infantry, and it's still hard for me to walk at a normal pace with my wife. My idea of walking and what is walking distance is not the same as most people, so I understand that sometimes when I turn around to look and see where she's at, she's about a block behind me, that I need to pull back just a little bit. So she just called me a dickhead. She called me a dickhead, so being nice. I realize I'm being a jerk sometimes. All right, whatever. All right, guys, ladies, them there. We've got the cognac cooked down, so you're starting to see a little bit. We'll get the camera in here, so you can see a little bit more shallot rather than liquid take over. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to add our cream. All right. Now, we're not going to reduce just yet, but what we're going to do is let that warm back up, all right, before we add in the chicken broth. All right. We just don't want to add too much cold in there that it takes a long time to bring this back up to temperature. So all those hot shallot, cognac, oil, garlic, we're going to overwhelm them, add in the cream, let it warm up just a little bit, and then we'll add in. What you can do is take half of your herbs, put them in. Yeah. Now, herbs are great to add in stages, all right? Dried herbs are always best if you're taking a long period of time to, say, make a red sauce, you know, certain, you know, chilies, ragouts, things like that. Dried spices are always good to use very early on, so they have time to wake up and develop. Fresh herbs, great somewhere in the middle, and then right at the end of the finishing note, because the flavors are not trying to get them to activate the same. Same goes with dried spices. You know, we toast them in the pan. We get a little bit of fat in there to activate them, to give them something to feed on, so they're ready to go. So since I added those herbs, I can put my other ones out of the way so I don't get too greedy. All right. I see a few bubbles with my cream, so I'm going to go ahead and add in my chicken stock. All right. Now, I'm going to add in all but just a tiny bit, leave about like an eighth of it back, just in case I need to thin out the sauce, or, you know, if it is like a little thinner, we have something to kind of work with to cut that once we add the tomatoes. Now, I'm just going to turn the heat back up. Now, what I want to do is heat this back up and allow the chicken stock and the cream to reduce a little bit, concentrate flavors once again, develop the sauce. Right? Everything kind of takes a little bit of time, not a ton. It's a lot quicker dish than some of the stuff I cook at home. But we do want to develop flavors, and that's when we talk about layers. All right, it's adding things in, allowing them to cook to kind of spread out the dish, and then adding in that next layer of flavor. All right, so I do have my green pan is warmed up. I turned off the flame. What I can do is I'm going to go ahead and get the garlic ready for the green, just so it's prepared. So the rest of that garlic that's there, I'm going to throw it out on the board. Again, we're going to clear out any big pieces of germ that's going to be unedible. That's going to be something that's going to get stuck in our teeth. Luckily, a lot of this garlic looks pretty good. Right. Now for this one, what I want to do is slice, because I still want the garlic to be something that you really bite into during the dish. So we're just going to take it, slice it nice and thin. And then, you know, take a couple at a time, but not too many. My wife's always asking for a chance to come work with me. We tried it a few times. I've only yelled at her on 2 occasions. Only 2 occasions. Maybe just once. No, she's right. She was giving me the benefit of the doubt. She was moving too slow in my defense, and that's just not okay. But right now, she's also working as now film crew, holding a pot still, so it's not making noise in the background. She's an all-around kind of woman. All right, so you can see the cream, stock, herbs, and everything are starting to simmer heavily now. Go ahead, just kind of watch that flame, so it's on medium low. If you need to, if you have a problem with kind of concentrating, especially when something has cream in the dish, don't be afraid to put a wooden spoon across the top. When things like pasta water, cream and everything start to rise, when it hits that spoon, it's going to help alleviate it and kind of push that back down, so you don't have a spillover and burn it on the stove. But keep an eyeball on all of that. I'm told that some people are getting behind around the time that I'm cutting. I'm sorry. Yeah, again, that just comes with the time of cutting things. So we'll let you guys cut up or catch up, slice up your garlic a little bit. We're gonna push that to the side. What? When you guys are caught up, please let us know. Right now, we're letting the sauce again simmer down. Simmer down. If anybody knows that quote or what the reference is, that would be great. You go ahead, and we got some salt. You all have salt at home. We're gonna add in just a couple pinches. Again, layering that flavor in, letting salt have a couple stages of seasoning. And if you know, a pinch is that measurement. I saw this in an old cookbook from, I think it was like the early 1900s, but a dash, a pinch, all those things have legitimate measurements written with them. I don't remember what that is. Do your own history work, but it legitimately is a thing. So if anybody remembers their great-grandmother or great-great-grandmother, anybody doing it, they had a purpose behind it. Whoa, what did I hear, Kathy Brooks? Are you cheating? Are you cheating? What did she do? Oh, she cut up all of her stuff beforehand. That's fine. That moves us forward much faster. All right. So I warmed up my saute pan. I'm bringing over the rest of my blended oil that I divided up, and I'm going to click my pan back on. It's like a medium-low heat. I'm going to add my oil in. I'm going to get my 2 cups of onions ready. All right. Now, it shouldn't take too long for that oil to get nice and hot. We're gonna give it just a little bit longer. To be fair, Kathy Brooks, I cheated too. Although I love you all, I wasn't about to dice that many onions, so I got free diced onions for you. All right, so you should have your onion, the sliced garlic, and, oh, where'd you go, my little friend? My pepper flake. Oh, the cup was so small, I already lost it. And our little cup of pepper flakes, red pepper flakes, everybody. So, again, don't use the pepper flakes if you don't like heat. Use them all if you're like me. So really see oil start to move very free flowing, right? You're knowing that it's heating up for you, all right? If you need to throw an onion or something in, if it starts to get a lot of action, then you know that you're ready to cook. You can see a good bit of sizzle. All right. So the first thing I want you to put in is your garlic. What? My wife's laughing.
Just thanks for saving her the tears.
All right, we're gonna move in on the pan again. My wife spent a little more time drinking than she is in video. It's okay though. Mom's been working hard. We have a babysitter tonight. We're gonna cook for you. We're gonna drink some wine. We're gonna make out like teenagers. What? No, or make out like teenagers. I mean, make sure to move it around. You don't want the garlic to stick. You don't want it to burn. All right. You want to just start to really kind of. Then whatever use of red pepper flake, we're going all in. All right. Get that moving. Now it's nice and hot. We're gonna our onions. Now with our onions, we're not going to move them as much as we did without, because we do want some color on them. Right? That my like that natural is being caramelized and pulled out of the onion. We want a little bit more of that flavor with our dandelion greens. We're just gonna make sure everything is evenly spread out, coated in oil. If you were part of my last cook along with Justin at home, I explained to you that pan flip. Hold on to that. It's like a pineapple in a show. I may bring it back later to ask you so you can win a prize. All right, so everything's nice and spread out. We're gonna let those onions cook. All right. So our cream, chicken stock is cooked down a bit. Now we're gonna go ahead. I want you to use a spoon. Go ahead and spoon out those large chunks of tomatoes. Now, you may have a little bit of sauce behind. Add just a little bit in and kind of reserve just in case you need it for more flavor later. All right, so we're gonna let that warm back up before we go in the blender. Now, I said in your instructions, hopefully you have a blender at home. If not, that's okay. What we can do is, if you don't have a blender, you just have more of a, toothy sauce instead of that nice, smooth blended sauce that we're looking for. But that's okay. We can still make a great dish with it. Just cook a little slower. Allow the tomatoes to really break down as you're cooking. And if you need to, you can go ahead and take a fork, kind of break through them. But since we've minced everything, you know, most of that's in there. But we're going to blend this so we get that nice, smooth, velvety sauce that we're looking for. All right. And as you, oh, my wife's got to go on wine run. All right. The action in the pan, you sizzle. Again, don't touch it. Really let this like cook, work. Everybody wants to stir things too often. They want to get involved in it. If you have guests over, they're going to try and touch a pan. Don't be afraid to kind of hit some people. All right. If you hit one person, that teaches everybody a lesson. All right. All right, so we're waiting for our tomato now to really kind of warm up. Once that has really heated through and had some time to warm the tomatoes, then we're going to go ahead and move them to our blender. I'm going to let you guys catch up for a minute as this starts to cook. I'm going to move to my wife. All right. Okay, a couple of questions. We're going to go on first. Have we used onions for the greens yet? Yes. We heated up in our medium saute pan. We heated up the rest of the blended oil. We added, once that was nice and warm, we added in our garlic, sliced garlic, and then the 2 cups of onions, garlic, the red pepper flakes, and then the 2 cups of onions. We made sure to move them around a little bit, make sure everything was covered in oil. That's it. All right, let it cook, let it caramelize for a minute. You're really going to have to cook off some of that moisture to make that happen. The next question that came in was the safety point that I put in your instructions. Can you hand me the blender there? Just the top. Good. Yeah. All right. Make sure you're working with a dry towel. The worst burns that you guys are going to have in the kitchen are going to come from steam. Maybe a large roast in the oven, a pot of boiling water you're not thinking of, you take a lid off, you're going to be too close and catch all that. Same thing when you're blending hot sauces. The heat, the steam coming off is going to cause an extreme amount of pressure when you're cooking. That's going to try and force that lid off. And it doesn't seem like it would be that much, but trust me, the more you have in here, have a smaller blender or a large one, you may need to do it in batches, but you don't want to try and pile it as high as possible. You want to make sure to get that on there. You also, most of these have like these plastic rubber lids. Those warm up, all right? So they get a little bit more flimsy, allowing for gaps for the steam to escape. And if you just turned it on, that lid's going to shoot off. If you just put your hand on it, there's a likelihood that a crease in there is going to open up, and that sauce is going to spray you right in the face, and you're going to look as you used to. I'm not going to say ugly, not as good as you used to look. Actually, I remember in middle school having a science teacher explain very similar, something happened to her, and it severely burned her face, and she had to have spin grafts done. So dry towel on top. We start at a lower speed, and then we pick up pace as we see everything blended and as we have a secure seal on that lid. All right. So we can get a pan in here on the sauce. All right. You can see that that's really starting to simmer nicely, warms through. So now, I'm going to bring over our blender. Back up that way. There are some producer issues here. All right. Go ahead and turn my flame off here. So we have our sauce. Go ahead. You don't want to just dump it all in. right, and cause an issue, go ahead and pull some of those big tomatoes out again. So you're not causing such a dangerous mess. These are probably some of the best kitchen tips that people don't really think about when they start cooking more, when they start getting more adventurous, that I watched over years of students, of people learning to cook, getting close to something hot or just splashing something. And then they either get hurt or they create such a mess that it slows them down. All right, so now we got some of the big chunks out. So if you look, right, again, my sauce only takes up about half my blender, and that's about as far as we want to go with that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to start this on my lowest setting, which is just a stir. All right, again, holding tight. So that's enough to like pop everything up. And then from there, as we go back to stir, then we can slowly increase in speed. If you have something at home, you know, more of a dial, again, that 0 to 10, you know, the same thing that you want to do. So. All right. Now, the next step, you want to turn it off, let everything take a chance to settle again. All right. And then I see somebody said Vitamix. That's for you serious people out there that want to invest the money. You get what you pay for. The difference between an Oster Duralast Classic blender at the house and a Vitamix is pretty amazing. Well worth the money, especially if you're cooking at home a lot, whether it's making sauces and or margaritas. But we want everything to settle one more time and then go right through the process so we make this nice and smooth as possible. All right. So you should get nice hits of the tomato, the tarragon, a little bit of cognac in there. I'm going to pour this back in my sauce pot. If you're at home, go ahead, give a good rinse out on your pot so you don't have any large chunks or any debris left behind. I'm not in a similar situation. I'm in a makeshift kitchen. So we're going right back in. So I was told that apparently we're in a battle between Vitamix and Ninja. Right? Ninja sounds cool, but unless I'm, you know, really hitting that infomercial late night crowd, I think I'm still going Vitamix. All right, so just give the sauce a look. All right, make sure it's nice and smooth. Give it a taste. Okay. Add a little bit more pepper in there. Add a little bit of salt. Give another stir. Give another stir. Meanwhile, if you notice, I haven't touched my onions. Let them cook. Let them be. When you see a little bit of browning start to happen around the edge, then we can think about moving them. But I'll have my wife get in close here. All right, so you can see it's a nice smooth sauce. All right, this is going to play really well with the ham, which we're going back to, folks. Pulling out the ham dish. All right, got our baking dish ready, and we can start to ladle this over the time. My wife just said she loves this dish so much. Now, over the years of us being together, she has stated seemingly several times that she doesn't like ham and she doesn't like beans. Yet, she loves this dish. She'll eat a croque madame. We've had ham and 1,000 things, but she always has to state how she doesn't like ham. I think she doesn't like some crazy ass weird old deli ham that's filled with preservative. So if you see, I've coated pretty liberally here all over a lot of sides. I'm going to stop for just 1 second. You can grab some spatulas or tong at home. You can grab my little offset. And we're just going to lift the ham, spread, lift. This is like date night with my wife. All right, spread. This way the sauce gets underneath, so it's really getting all around. If you were not prepared for any kind of dirty innuendos between my wife and I and my cooking, research your chefs a little bit more. It's just part of who I am, especially when you're cooking at home with me. All right. Once we do that, we're going to go back and we're going to finish a little bit more. Oh. Cheese, ham, rolled up, sauce on top. You're definitely going to be left with some sauce. That's great. It's, you know, we can dish a little bit more on later. You can save it, pour it over your eggs in the morning. But I like to have sauce left. If you ended up getting some of the country bread loaf, that's coming from Chris Decker at Metro Pizza and Lulu's Bread. Sop up that sauce. It's always great to have a little extra bowl on the side. So our ham is set. Its next step is going to go to the oven in just a little bit here. But first, we're going to work with our greens. All right, we're going to move those onions around. So you can see, let's see what we're on here. We're getting a little bit of color in there. That's exactly what we want. With this one, we're going to season those onions with a little bit of salt. Now, we're going to add our dandelion greens in a couple different stages of the pan like this. We're going to add them in because just like spinach, if you add in 10 pounds of spinach into a pan like this all at once, it won't fit, right? But somehow, if you were to add it in stages, your pan's going to be too big for 10 pounds of spinach. It's a weird world we find ourselves in. So we're going to give a little bit up top there. We're going to turn our heat up, really kind of get those onions and everything going, really pull that moisture, and let those cook for a minute. This is another perfect point to go ahead and grab a drink of wine. Catch up to me where you need to be. Boom. That's my wife, everybody. Amanda Wolf, hair, amazing hairstylist, embarrassed wife, incredible lady, and pretty badass mom. Oh, we're back to cheers in the outside. You chose to cook at home with me, and even though we're in a spot, you have to deal with my shenanigans. That's the beauty of this. All right, so you're going to start to hear a lot of sizzle from the pan. That's the moisture from not just the water that you had drained off of the dandelion greens with the water naturally in them, popping. You can start to see that's going to break down a little bit. We did not put the ham in the oven yet. The ham we've got off to the side. We're just going to work on the greens real quick, get a few more layers in before we go into the oven with the ham. But it's coming close, you know. If you see, now we've started to wilt down those greens a little bit, all right? So they're getting into the onion, and we add on another layer of greens.
So I don't want any sauce left. If you did use the large dish, also, we should still have half the herbs, right?
Yes, you should still have half the herbs. If you don't have any sauce left, you may have used the large dish. You may have been tasting a lot as you checked your dish out. But as long as you have enough for the dish, it's perfectly fine. I love you for saucing heavily. All right. But yes, half the herbs are still left behind. Your oven should be at 400 degrees. It's a very good starting point. Again, you want your rack to be a little higher in the oven, not super close, but definitely a little above middle of the oven. So you get nice heat coming down on that ham to caramelize and really kind of heat up that tomato sauce. All right, so now that I've got the greens going, I've got a second layer of greens. I still have some in reserve. I gave you guys a lot of greens for this because I want you to be able to share, all right? I'm going to go ahead.
You know, I'm saucy.
Kathy Brooks is saucy. All right, I'm sending the wifey to the oven with that. That is not like a get in the kitchen kind of joke with my wife. Legitimately, I think in the 9 years, we went from roommates to friends, dating, married, and all the above. I could count on two hands how many times she's cooked for me. I mean, that's true. That's not saying anything bad, but she just lets me do most of the cooking, which I love. She's an amazing cook. But she just won't cook for me that often. Real quick, let's get in here on the greens. You can start to see a lot of action happening. She's now given up on the camera work. We need her to get in a little closer. So you can see it's starting to get a little drier in the pan, which is good. All right.
We put our hand in the oven now too.
Yes. All right.
We put our hand in the oven now too.
Yes. Fair point. Go ahead and put your ham in the oven right now too. If your oven's not hot enough just yet, that's fine. I'm just more getting that ham in the oven so it's ready quickly. And I just need it to look pretty for you guys right now. I don't need to be super hot. But I want to go ahead, put that ham in the oven. It's going to be in there about 10, 15 minutes. Everybody's ovens work a little differently. If you have a convection oven, dead air oven, if you have an oven made in the 70s compared to one nowadays, that's all going to kind of vary what's going on. So our friend Jim and I out there asked, wasn't it breakfast that kind of sparked a love interest of my wife? And that is very true. I was working in a restaurant, of course, at the time on the Strip. We were roommates, and she came downstairs getting ready for work, and she pulls out a cold leftover steak, some other leftovers. She's in a towel, their hair up, and I wake up after, like, I got home, I think, 3, 4 in the morning. I wake up to this gorgeous woman eating a cold steak with her bare hands, very Utah of her. and opened my eyes and I was like, oh God, I love that woman. And that was kind of like the point where it's like, yep, we're going to be around each other for many years to come. All right, so we want to make sure to move some of those cooked greens to the top, all right, to sit on top of the raw greens. This is going to prevent the ones on bottom from burning, right? And it's going to give a chance for the other greens to go ahead and cook a little bit more, right? So now we're going to turn our flame down to a medium, all right? So you can see in that big mixing bowl of greens, all right, bunch and a half dandelion greens, we're definitely working this pan down. All right. Now, before they get down too much further, we want you to go ahead and you should have the broth for greens. Open it. All my greens are in the pan. I am greenless, very green, kind of Iceland, Greenland kind of thing. Speaking of which, has anybody out there watched Eurovision yet? If you haven't, on Netflix, Will Ferrell is doing an incredible job of making 2020 okay. So I have my broth. I have oil's been in there, my sliced garlic, my red pepper flake, my diced onion balls, cooked, started caramelizing, breaking down. I then added in layers of my dandelion greens to make sure to be able to get them all in. And now I'm taking my chicken stock for greens, and I'm throwing that all in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on it. All right. Again, if you're working without a lid, you don't have a full set of pans. I was at that point many times in my life. That's okay. Use a sheet tray. Put a piece of foil over top. I got to laugh. You have some Eurovision people out there. Volcano Man, pretty solid. Ding Dong. Good job, Gemini. Yeah. What? So the lid is on top. Again, if you have foil, anything, turn that down to a medium-low heat. Oops. If you're kind of wondering on the level there of what medium-low looks like, all right, there's a full flame. There's medium. And there's medium-low, all right? This is one of the reasons why, even if you give 10 people a recipe, you're going to have 10 different versions of it. Everybody's perception eyes on what medium-low is. Even on the dial, if you have an electric stovetop, some say like 1 to 5, some 1 to 10, some just low, medium, and that's a lie even sometimes, because then you have like high, medium, low, simmer, which somehow on ours is hotter than anything. It's really ridiculous. But you just want like a nice, good, gentle, but yet strong kind of flame or heat going in there. And now we're going to start braising those greens in there with the chicken stock. Going to give a chance for you guys to catch up, right? For me to clear off some of my space here, because we're getting a little closer to plate up time. What? Is Ding Dong from Eurovision? Yes, it is. Ding Dong. Play Ding Dong again. So my wife has gone back to work many moons ago, what it feels like. I'm doing work, still trying to get Main Street Provisions open, of course, which is coming along amazing. The look of the restaurant is beautiful. But yes, I am working at home on the computer. I've been home with my daughter, who had to be out of preschool for 2 weeks. I was at home with the kids quite a bit. So things like Eurovision have really saved my days at some point to bring a little high point.
Should we put bread in the oven?
Yes, if you have the bread at home, go ahead, throw it in the oven. 400 is great. Put it on a lower rack though. Get a nice little crust out there. Slice it or break it and tear it. I'm very much a person about breaking, tearing bread, large chunks, swiping up. This whole slicing crap and making everything look beautiful is not as sexy as ripping a shirt open. So think about that, folks. So we're getting a nice breakdown on the greens. We've got still some moisture in the pan. And dandelion greens, although the green themselves are going to wilt quite a bit, those stems do very well to hold texture. So don't be too afraid. As we talk about plating, and we're getting close here, we're going to get our dinner plates. I'm going to show you how I like to kind of plate this up for the family. And yes, a lot of the food at home, I plate still like I'm in the restaurant. I very much enjoy not just working on my skills continuously, but I like that enjoyment of giving my family a finished dish, the same as I would my guests in the restaurant. That's the same experience of what you're getting from my house is how I treat my house. So at times, yes, things are family meal and spread out. Other times we're more delicate with our dishes. And just like home or in the restaurant, I'm still standing up with a mixing bowl, eating food, rarely sitting at the table. I want you guys to go ahead, get your butter close by. The butter, we're folding in at the end for a couple reasons. We're adding, this is going to be for the dandelion greens. We're adding a little bit of fat to those greens. The richness of the butter is going to help round out the bitterness and spice of the greens as well. They can be pretty intense for people. So we want to add a little bit of butter in there just to kind of coat everything and make it nice, well-rounded green. Also, if you got the farm eggs, I suggest a few different things. I love an egg on the dish, whether it be a salad or something like this, because the fat of the yolk really kind of connects everything at the time. It's just it's an indulgence. It's overly rich. It's a difference between French kisses and non-French kisses. I mean, tongue's just good. But it's a great topper. I get my farm eggs from Desert Bloom Eco Farms. They're on the way to Tacoma. Farmer Claudia, she does a very great job with her farm, not just with eggs, but from beets to greens to herbs that we use quite a bit with the circuit burger crowd in our restaurants, several restaurants throughout town, RCSA boxes. And really, I think we saw some great uptick in that during the shutdown and continuing, that people are continuing to get these CSA boxes. So they're getting good, healthy, organic, local greens. So I hope you all enjoy that. The foie gras, I think I showed you all in the thing, in the list. If you look at my last cook along, you can see me sear the foie gras. Take it out, score it, a little bit of salt, let it set. But you want foie gras to be nice and chilled still, so the fat renders slowly. But again, this is a great way to top a dish, or just have it on a piece of bread beforehand. I think I put it on there is you're fancy as fuck if you want to get some foie gras, but it's good, and it's been around for a long time. All right, the grains are getting close there. Still got some nice bite to it, but we've got some nice bitterness. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the butter in different portions, right? Not all of it at once. We're going to leave the lid off for this. So this is just a nice little finishing point. I'm just going to spread the greens out, giving a little chance for that last bit of moisture to evaporate. So we want to take the water content out, leave the richness of the butter and the broth still in there. If you're ever wondering, you see things like chicken stock, chicken broth, or bone broth back and forth. Culinarily, the difference between stock and broth is that broth also uses meat scraps in making this delicious, flavorful, nutritious cooking liquid, where stock is about bones. So that's the big difference that you see there. The more bones you have, though, in your or in your stocks and broth, is going to mean more gelatin. It's going to be more body. So although you'll get some flavor off the meat, you're never going to get the body off of a broth that you will with, a homemade stock. All right, so our butter's broken down a little bit. I'm going to add in a little bit more. Oh, this isn't necessarily a really low calorie dish, but I got like you got some great healthy greens going on here, some clean meat. The products we use are a lot of grass-fed, pasture-raised. So it's about the ingredients that we choose. Toast keto, very true. I'm going to have, my brother is checking the ham right now. With the ham, we want it nice and hot. You want to be careful. You don't, if you're starting to see the sauce disappear and it's getting burnt, but that cheese is melted, go ahead, put a little bit of aluminum foil over the top of it or lower it down to a lower level. Because really you want it nice and hot all the way through. And you want that cheese as melty as possible. This is a nice aged cheddar, so it's not going to melt a ton, but this beehive tends to melt just a little bit better than some. All right, I'm going to work in my last 2 bits of butter. Oh, here comes my brother with the ham. Oh, right there, sir. Okay. Always have a brother. Make sure he's intelligent, but have a brother. So I'm going to bring you guys right up here. So you got a bit of char on there, still got plenty of sauce. You can see some of it's a little more liquid. That's fine. All right, there's just kind of separation. We're gonna work with that. But you got some nice dark bits on there. Burning everything, not good. Little burnt pieces are delicious. All right, so we're gonna leave that on the edge. We're gonna work in the last of our butter. If you're searing the foie, you're going to have that pan on like a medium-high heat because you want a good sear on the outside, quickly to caramelize in just a nice like mid-rare. Typically, this takes about 2 minutes on each side or less. Just give a nice little touch with your finger. Should kind of feel like when you press, if you hold your hand open and press with the inner kind of fatty area right there, that's what you're going for on your foie, right? My wife's laughing. I feel like she saw something inappropriate. Delicious and dirty. That's what we go for here. All right, so we're gonna get a zoom in on the green. All right. So you can see the butter's incorporated with the last of that broth. We're gonna push that over the greens, really let it soak in. We're gonna give it a taste. Give just a little bit more seasoning to it. All right, now we are ready to plate. Try, if you can, put your plate in the oven for just a few seconds to get it nice and warm. All right, hot food, hot plate. If not, the blowtorch works. If you don't have that, well, so does a room temp plate. Room temp in Vegas is also like 90 degrees, so it all works. Now, even though we have some of that broth left over, we're trying not to get that. So we want to go ahead and push our greens back. You can use some tongs here if you got them. Make life a little bit easier. But I want you to go ahead, make sure you got a plate. All right. You've got your ham next to you. You can go ahead and take a nice heaping portion of these greens out and put them dead center of our plate. So when you put them in, you kind of want to like dump them in like a dump truck. So it kind of lands in one center spot, and then we can kind of move it out to create the bed for the ham. Now, good to have a spatula. If you have a fish spatula, even better. This works amazing, but a spatula nonetheless, so we can go ahead and get at our ham. Make sure to give a little press on each side. Make sure that it's not stuck to the dish. And then we're going to scoop under there and get one of those rolls out. See that cheese just slung right out of there? You're going to want to get that back for your friend. So we have one just offset to the side, and two right dead center. And then we take a little bit of that pan sauce. How bitter should the greens be? They're a bitter green, so they're gonna have a real good like bite and bitterness to them. The butter helps that a little bit. And then this sauce, the creaminess sauce, is gonna bring that down. If the greens are too bitter for you, that's fine. Try adding just a few sprinkles of sugar. All right, just some white sugar will kind of tone that down a little bit. But it's a bitter green. It's a good punch for a lot of people. But once you start getting in with the ham, the cheese, and everything else, it's gonna cut it back as you take those bites. All right, so we're gonna mix that sauce up a little bit. All right, so it's not too watery. You want to get some of the stuff that's been up near the element and dried out. Spoon that right in the center there. Right down the center on the edges. Leave a little bit of that charred look to it. All right. This is one of those ugly, delicious things. It's not meant to be stacked high and have beautiful little flowers attached. It's meant to make you feel good and go well with some wine. Now, we bring in our herbs. Go ahead and take a pinch and just sprinkle over the top there. Yeah. And that, everybody, is my American take and version of classic dish from France, Jambon Chablis, with a little bit of Remy Martin cognac. So using French, American ingredients, French techniques. My time around the U.S. and the South, growing up in California, to put a dish together is something that I think is great on a Sunday evening when you're spending it with a few friends, a loved one, a wife, a brother, sister, and enjoying a meal and a glass of wine. That's the dish. I hope you all enjoy. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them out right now. If you have any questions after we get done here, you can find me on my Instagram, J Kingsley Hall. Direct message me. I'll answer whatever questions you all have, and hope to see some of your pictures come up on the meal. Again, I want to thank Remy Martin for supplying cognac to kind of round out this meal. I'm just going to take a second to look, and we got any questions? Oh, we got a little bit of a delay. All right, everybody. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to go drink some wine, cook a few more of these for friends and my family here. If you get a chance, get down to Garrett Juice Wine Merchant and enjoy yourself. Good night, everybody. Bye.